Hey, what's poppin', guys? Hazel here, and today we're taking a look at the Falchion case. So first things first, we have the UMP45 Riot, and it's just like a modernized camo skin, uh, and mostly seems like the stock weapon. I personally don't like camo skins, and then this doesn't really add a lot, so I'm gonna have to put this one down in the F tier, where I believe it belongs. It's pretty straightforward. Next up, we have the Nova Ranger, and yeah, this is like the type of camo I guess you'd expect to see from a ranger, like someone hunting in the forest or something, I guess. It's got nice tan coloring at some parts that look kind of clean, and then otherwise it's just a very simple, kind of like foresty camo, which definitely looks better than the standard camo in my opinion, but it still really doesn't look that great, and I wouldn't really want to use it myself, but I think it belongs in the D tier. And next up, we have the Glock 18 Bunsen burner, pretty much the most standard, cheap Glock skin of all time. And yeah, I can see why. It's just a really solid looking Glock skin. It has kind of like a light blue flame coming across the front, and then it has a nice kind of cyan green coloring in the back. That kind of goes really well. This looks really clean in lighting, like the flame kind of glows a bit. And it's just a really solid looking Glock skin. I'd say honestly can kind of go into the B tier. It's a pretty solid design and looks kind of clean. Then next up we have the P90 Elite build, using the same camo as the AK Elite build. And yeah, it's like a more black P90 than the stock one. It's got some logos on it and whatever. But otherwise, it's not that much greater than stock, but it is still a very clean skin, if nothing else. Um, so I'm gonna put this one at the top of D tier, almost in C tier. It's a pretty solid skin, for those who like it. Then we have the USPS Torque, which has a very unique design of lime, white, and black, and it ends up actually working together pretty well to make something kind of clean. It's just a .202 flow and it's really scratched up here, but most of these, even like the kind of field tested ones, end up looking pretty clean. So I'm gonna have to put this one in a C tier because it's a really just solid weapon. Then next up, we have the Galil AR Rocket Pop, our final blue skin, and it's super clean. I mean, this is a very factory new one, but you can see there's almost no scratches on this thing. And the color scheme is amazing. The classic red, white, and blue of the American flag ends up looking really nice, and then it has a pretty basic design, but honestly, with this color scheme, you can't really go too wrong. It just kind of looks beautiful, very bright, very vibrant, and just a very solid skin. For me, that's an easy top of C tier placement. And next up, we have the Famas Neutral Net, which is interesting, I guess. It almost looks like banana peels at some parts of the weapon. It's super scratched for some reason. This is factory new, and I don't know what they were going for here, but it really just doesn't look good at all. Most of the bottom of the weapon's still stock. There's this weird black texture. It might just be on mine. I don't really know. And then the actual design is just confusing at best and just looks super scratched all the time. This is one of those FAMAS skins that's just always really scratched for no reason. And just for that reason, I'm going to put it at low D tier. The one nice thing is it is yellow, and I think yellow is a kind of nice color, so it looks somewhat okay, maybe, and in some really weird lighting or something. But it's just a very damaged yellow, bright yellow skin. It's nothing really crazy to look at. Then we have the MP9 Ruby Poison Dart, which has kind of the same design as a poison frog, like poison dart frog, except it's a more red, like lava looking color scheme. It ends up actually looking pretty clean. Looks like kind of like the black part kind of looks like that kind of hardened lava that you'll see around like lava flowing off a volcano or something. And then the actual coloring being ruby or whatever, just ends up looking a lot like lava kind of flowing throughout the weapon. Ends up looking just really clean. I'm gonna say I'm quite surprised with this one, and it's definitely a solid C tier skin. Then next up, we have the P2000 Handgun, and yeah, it's a very basic skin. Not a lot going on, just kind of black and cyan, light blue, I guess, whatever you want to call it. And then it has boom on the front here, which you'll see sometimes when playing the game. And I guess there's a finger coming through here, but you actually won't see that most of the time, like a hand with like kind of pointing his. Oh, it's supposed to be like a handgun, I guess. Literally, like a hand gun. And then the boom's supposed to be him shooting it, and I guess the blue's supposed to be like, I don't know, laser or something. The thing is, with the color scheme and kind of the way it works in lighting, it's really hard to spot the hand initially. And even when you do, it's just kind of plastered on there. It doesn't seem like it really fits too well with the weapon. It's kind of just a mediocre skin at best. So for me, it's going to be a solid C tier, definitely below the Elite build. And next up, we have the Negev Loudmouth, and it actually looks hella dope. You can see kind of the teeth of the Negev here that will like kind of rattle about whenever you're shooting the weapon. They even added an eye here to make it kind of like a gator or something. There's some fire coming off the front, and then it has the word run for people looking at it from the front like this. And it just looks kind of clean. It's kind of like the artwork you'd expect someone to put on a real life weapon like this, and it just looks really, really cool. Definitely very unique. There's not a lot of skins like this. And the color scheme being yellow just kind of fits for some reason. I'm not really sure why. Definitely one of the best Negev skins I've seen. I'm actually going to put this one up in the A tier. I really do like kind of how the design works. Then we have the M4A4 Evildemia, or Damia, or whatever the fuck you want to call it, which just looks solid. I mean, it's a solid red and black M4. Definitely very solid. Very little scratches on this thing. I think I have one myself that's field tested, and even then there's not many scratches on it. Which is definitely really nice. It's always nice when a skin's kind of clean. And yeah, it's just a very clean red and black design. I mean, it has some other kind of stuff on it, but really you're just looking at it overall, just a red and black design with some nice artistic stuff to make it look nicer. And yeah, it's just a really, really clean skin. I mean, I have one of these. I really do like it, so I think it belongs at the top of the B tier. Then next up, we have the CZ75 Yellow jacket. CZ75 Auto Yellow jacket. And yeah, it's a yellow kind of jacket for the CZ. That's all there is to it. It's very nice, vibrant yellow. Very little scratches on it. Just looks like a kind of clean, almost like banana gun. So for people that like that, that's great. It just looks kind of clean. Nothing crazy, nothing bad. I'm gonna say it's a lower C tier skin. Then next up we have the MP7 Nemesis. And I've never really seen this design. I've seen the skin in-game a ton. Whenever you're playing, it's something like, maybe like this or something. I've never seen cool-ass like face here in the back. You only ever really see the front part of the weapon, which is just a simple kind of gray and yellow, which, like I said, it's a pretty solid color scheme. And then the back, you got this cool design that you never see. If you could actually see this design more in game, it'd probably be really sick. I actually kind of like how that looks, and you can kind of see it from almost every angle. That's just a kind of cool design. But just for the color scheme that you kind of see most of the time, it's a very basic gray and yellow kind of reskin with that attached. It's definitely a solid C tier. Then next up we have the SG553 Cyrex. And yeah, just like most of the other Cyrex skins, it's got the red, white, and like purplish black kind of design to it, but for some reason the scope looks like it's actually the stock scope, which really does not fit with this weapon. And then the front uses like a dark blue gray kind of color that just does not fit with anything else on the weapon. It's kind of weird that they didn't just use the black that they used back here on the front part. I think if they did, this would be a really, really solid looking SG. But having this being a different color just clashes with the rest of the skin, and not in a good way that you normally like to see. So I'd say this is really kind of not that good. I mean, it's definitely not horrible. Color scheme's still okay, and it is a complete SG skin, so I can't put it too low. But I'd say it kind of belongs in the middle of the C tier. And next up is our second to last weapon, which is the AK-47 Aquarium Revenge, which has some like fire dolphins kind of going through the ocean. It's just a really clean looking skin overall, but not really something that you'll notice the design of in game. The color scheme is definitely really nice with like a green kind of waves and then the red dolphins kind of coming in over it. But when you're in game, you only really just see the green and red, which still on its own is already a really solid color scheme. But then if you actually look at the design, the waves are really well designed and go really well with this weapon. They really did a good job with it. And then the kind of fire dolphins just look sick, but the problem is that they're so detailed that you almost never actually see them in game. which is quite unfortunate. I didn't even know the skin had dolphins, honestly, until I looked at it a bit closer. But yeah, it's a really solid color scheme, really solid design. The only downside being it's kind of hard to spot when you're just looking at it in game. So for that reason, I think this is an A tier. I think if the dolphins were more visible, I'd probably put it in S. But yeah, it's still a very, very solid AK skin. And the final skin for this collection is the AWP Hyperbeast, which I think was the first use of the Hyperbeast out of all the many versions of Hyperbeast. And yeah, you can kind of see why. It's got a very nice overall dark blue kind of color scheme to it, including the background and actually the barrel. And then the design is kind of the beast coming off the back of the weapon, kind of spitting forward on the scope and everything else. It's a very solid design. I like that the color scheme is actually applied to everything. It's just a really good looking op overall, honestly. There's really nothing to complain about here. I don't think they could have done anything else better. And I really do like the look of the design, so for me, it's actually an S tier weapon. Skin. But yeah, that's it for this one. I hope you guys enjoyed looking at these skins as much as I did, and I will see you in the next one.